everyone! Welcome to part 4 of my Guilds of Ravnica set review. And this is the beginning of when we're going to be talking about the guilds, and in this episode we're talking about the Azorius and the Orzhov. So I'm going to talk about the Azorius first and the Orzhov second. In guilds, I accidentally I mixed them up in the actual episodes themselves, but this one I've decided to actually be good and separate them and talk about one guild at a time. So we'll do that. As with all the videos, if you haven't watched the previous ones, I'd recommend going back and watching the one on white and blue, because I kind of talk more about how I am evaluating these cards and kind of what we're going for. But primarily I am evaluating this for limited. So, yeah. But without further ado, let's just start out with a nice reprint from, I believe, Invasion? Absorb, which is white, blue, blue for an instant. Counter target spell, you gain 3 life. It is very mana intensive. Counter spells in general, the thing is that they have to leave up a lot of mana and things like that, and I mean, Azorius doesn't have a problem with that, but it is a good counterspell. 3 life is a lot. Obviously Absorb isn't as good in limited as it will be in standard. It'll be insane in standard, but yeah, no, it's just a good counterspell. The instant life gain, especially in kind of this Azorius tempo deck, is quite nice. And yeah, no, it'll just be neat. And it's gonna be so annoying in standard. I don't want to play against more Teferi decks. Azorius Knight Arbiter, which is 3 white and blue for a 2/5 of vigilance that cannot be blocked. I actually really like this card. 2/5 vigilance for 5, and not really, I'm fine, but that's 2 damage every turn that they really can't deal with unless they have a removal spell, and it's still back to block. That vigilance I think is really good. This blocks so many things, and sure, it a lot of the main threats are in the air, I've talked about. I mean, some of the rule stuff is on the ground and stuff, but just 2 damage every turn is a real rough thing to deal with. And you just, if they don't have a removal spell, they're that's a very good clock, and this is a common, so this I could see being one of the all-stars of the Azorius deck. Yeah, no, Azorius Knight Arbiter I quite like quite a bit as the 5-drop slot. I mean, it is a 5-drop, but even then, I really like it as a 5-drop. Next we have Azorius Skyguard, which is a 4 blue, white for, so 6 mana for 3/3 flying first strike, and causes all of the creatures your opponents control to get -1/-0. One thing I do say when I'm talking about evaluating these cards is because a lot of the gold cards will just be good because they have a high power level because they're gold and stuff, but the main thing you're talking about need to look at is is it worth splashing for? If I'm in Orzhov or Simic, do I want some of these cards? And oh no, wrong way. Absorb, too expensive, too color intensive, don't want to splash. Azorius Knight Arbiter, probably not, because it's really not, I could see maybe in Azorius, but it's not really what Simic's looking to do. And here's a Azorius Zygarde, which is it's a fine creature, and I think it's good, but at 6 mana it's a little expensive, but it does do a fair amount. But I think it's just a fine 6-drop, but it's nothing insane, in my opinion. Next we have Deputy of Detention, which is 1 white blue for a 1/3 with when it enters the battlefield, exile target permanent opponent controls, and all other non-land permanents that player controls the same name as that permanent until Deputy of Detention leaves the battlefield. This is a very good card. What's it called? Fiend Hunter type effects and things usually quite good, and this it's 3 mana, and they might get it back, it's killable. It's not a permanent O-ring, but it's just a very, very good card, and one that I would splash for in other colors just because it is very good. And the fact that it also hits tokens, like it can hit all of their spirits if they need to, or things like that, makes me quite like it. Dovin, Grand Arbiter, which is 1 white and a blue for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. With, this is the first planeswalker we've had. When you're valuing planeswalkers, you really just want to focus on the first 2 abilities. The ultimate ability so rarely comes up. Although this one actually has the potential of maybe hitting its ult, but for the most part you want to look at, like, what's its utility? Like, is it good if you can't defend him? And things like that, so... its +1 is, until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, to put a loyalty counter on Dovin, Grand Arbiter. So, that's for each creature that hits. So if you have, like, a lot of little guys, which Azorius kind of does, but it's mostly just, like, evasive threats, it's not a lot of them, so this might be even, like later, if you drop this late in their game, like a +3 or something, if you can get enough things through and give Dovin a nice cushion. Like, in a way that's kind of protecting Dovin in a lot of ways. That said, you're going to, like, we've seen the number of evasive threats we have in this set, and you're going to be hard-pressed to keep your walkers on the board. His -1 is make a 1/1 Thopter, and you gain 1 life. Which I think is fine. Like, I mean, it can protect yourself if you need some extra things, and it gives you a cushion, and yeah, it's fine. And it's -7, which, because of that first ability, and if you have that board presence, you could potentially go, it's not like you have to wait 4 turns. Like, if you have 3 creatures on board and they can all hit, you can +1, hit them all, you're at 7 loyalty, next turn you can ult. But it's look at the top 10 cards of your library, put 3 in your hand, and put the rest in the bottom in any order. Like, it's not like as game ending as a lot of ults are, but because it's very easily accessible. But I mean, that's really good card selection and whatnot, and I think Dovin overall is fine. Like, he's nothing amazing. Like, obviously his best ability is just making Thopters. Like, actually, yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I'm just not super huge on him as a planeswalker goes. Like, he's still not bad. Like, he'll pump out a few Thopters and give you some life, both physically, like, officially, as well as, like, when they swing at him, it gives you, like, virtual life, essentially, because they didn't swing at you and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, if you hit that -7, it's really good, but it does require a lot of setup that isn't just Dovin. You have to have, like, enough evasive threats that get in and stuff like that. And I can see situations where the board is really gummed up and you're just able to, like, Dovin excels, but honestly, that's true for any planeswalker. So, I think Dovin's fine. And also, like, that +1 is actually, I think, better if you're, like, splashing for him in Orzhov. But, other than that, like, I wouldn't go out of my way to play Dovin. In Limited, I should say. Next up, we have Dovin's Acuity, which is 1 white and a blue for an enchantment. And when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw a card. Whenever you cast an instant spell during your main phase, you may return Dovin's Acuity to his owner's hand. This is supposed to be kind of this, kind of like parallel to Disinformation Campaign, but this is no Disinformation Campaign, for several reasons. A, it only casts for instants, not surveil. Like, in Dimir, so many things surveilled, like, there almost very few Dimir cards didn't surveil, and it was and also a lot of creatures and things like that, and Limited is a format of creatures, and you're not running as many instants during in your main deck and things like that, and you don't want to be running too many instants, especially for a slow card advantage engine like this. It doesn't attack your opponent's hand like Disinformation Campaign did. Like, 2 life's not bad. Like, I don't think this card is bad. I think if you, at very minimum, you play it, it cycles himself, you gain some life. Okay, if you never cast a main phase instant, it's not good, but it's not the worst. And if you just get to play an instant and then replay it once, okay, obviously all of a sudden you've done a good job, and, like, I don't mind that. And I think it is a good card for the Azorius deck, but I wouldn't go out of my way for it. And this is no disinformation campaign. Emergency Powers, which is 5 white, blue for an instant. Each player shuffles their hand in the graveyard into their library, and then draws 7 cards. Exile emergency powers. Addendum. If you cast a spell during your main phase, you may put a permanent card from card mass 7 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay, normally wheel effects in Limited aren't very good, because your opponent gets to usually has more mana, they get to use their hand first, and things like that. This one kind of gets around it because you do just get to cast a spell for free on top of that, but at the same time you do refill your opponent's hand. And the fact is that, yes, you can wait till you make sure your hand's mostly empty and your opponent's are mostly full or whatever, but this is 7 mana. This is limited. Most of your hands are going to be near empty. You're just refueling your opponent, which isn't good in any sort of situation, even if you're refueling yourself. And sure, you get to cast something immediately, but I mean, you're spending 7 mana on this, and by no means never cast a string at instant speed, not during your main phase. It's just too much mana for an effect that I'm not really looking for, and yeah, I'm just not huge on this card for Limited. High Alert, which is 1 blue and a white, with an enchantment. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender. And you play 2 white and blue to untap target creature. So it's kind of like this blue-white big butts kind of deal, which is cool. And actually might work. Especially with the 2/5 that is unblockable, which is at common. And the fact this is an uncommon. And obviously the thing is that a lot of the Azorius stuff actually just naturally works with this. A lot of them have bigger butts than they do their power. But I think specifically you do want the Azorius creature that is unblockable and that is 2/5. I think that is the one that will be just make this card really great in a really cool Azorius deck, and that's the deck that comes together, and it's the dream, and it's awesome. But that said, it is a 3-mana enchantment that doesn't protect the board state without established things already going on in the board state. And it's one of those things where if you pick it up early, you can plan the rest of your draft around it. And then I think it can be quite good because that 2/5 unblockable is a common, and it's not unreasonable to pick up a few of them. I mean, granted, I think it is a solid card, but yeah, the creatures you control can attack if they didn't have Defender, and isn't really relevant because most of the defenders in the set aren't good. And the untapped target creature is sometimes relevant, but it's a lot of mana for what its effect, but game it can be nice. But yeah, I really like High Alert, as kind of a build around me card, but you do need to have the pieces. I could also see drafts where I pick this up early and it never comes together and I just don't even put it into my main board, but it's just the existence of that common that could just tear games, because all of a sudden you have essentially a 5/5 unblockable for 5. And that ends a game real fast. And if you can just get 2 of them, I'd run High Alert in my deck. If you have more, awesome. If you only have 1, it's fine. And I guess if you have 1 and a lot of other cards. And also it's one of those things where it's you don't want to be running creatures that you wouldn't run if you didn't have this enchantment in play, because it is just 1 card in your deck. You often won't run it, you won't draw it or whatever, and that's an issue. We have Ravenna, Azorius Renegade, which is white-blue for 2/2. Each opponent cannot cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. As much of a waves will make in Eternal formats, this card is unplayable and limited. She essentially is a 2/2 for 2. that is hard to cast. And yeah, I'm not looking to play Lavinia at all. Law Mage's Binding, which is 1 white and blue with a flash enchant creature. Enchanted creature can attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. This is very, 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 very good. And yeah, no, it's just real solid. Like, it's something I would splash for because it's a passive effect that these using are really good. It shuts down guild mages and whatever activated ability shenanigans you've got going on. It's instant speed. It's just, everything about it is just like, look, it is the perfect pacifism. There's not much to say. We have the Guild Mage, which is Senate Guild Mage, which is white, blue for 2/2. You can pay white and tap him to gain 2 life, or you may pay blue to tap him and draw a card, discard card. I think most of the time you'll just be using him to loot, but I mean sometimes you want to spend a few turns gaining some life, getting yourself a bit of a buffer. Yeah, I think he's good. I don't think he's insane as like some of the ones we saw in guilds, because like a lot of those like acted as removal and things like that, and this one's not bad, but like looting every turn is very good and can really help you in the long game. So I quite like Senate Guild Mage, but yeah, not much else to say. Okay, this is the new highly like high intensity cost one for Azorius, which is Sphinx of New Prov, which is white, white, blue, blue for you. So you don't want to be splashing for this, which is a 4/3 flying vigilance. And spells your opponents control spells your opponents cast that target this cost 2 more to cast. I mean, it's fine. It's I mean, it's obviously very good in Azorius deck. Like, it isn't the oh no game breaking thing that like Nightveil Spectre was. Not Nightveil Spectre, Nightveil Predator. Because like it can be removed. Like costing 2 more is good, and like this will get in for a lot of damage. But also just the number of, there's so many more flyers in the set, and a 4/3 flying vigilance is good, but like not like the thing that's like, oh yes, I'm going to get in 4/4 every turn. And it'll be a good card, and it'll be a solid card, but not the bustedness that we saw in Nightveil Predator, which is like the closest comparison I think for that from guilds. Sphinx's Insight, which is 2 blue, white for an instant, draw 2 cards, and if you cast this during your main phase, you gain 2 life. Okay, am I willing to spend an extra white for divination for instant speed, or sometimes 2 life during my main phase? I mean, I think I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a bit expensive. I don't want to be running too many of these, and obviously it's nice if I'm running, like, most of the time you'll cast this during your main phase, just because that extra 2 life is nice, unless you need to hold up a counter spell or something like that, and yeah. I mean, it's a card draw spell. It's not amazing, like, but divinations are usually good, and this is not a premium draw spell, like we saw some better mono blue ones, but I don't mind. Alright, this is our like hybrid one, so this can go into white or blue decks, but it's 2 Azorius. For a 3/2 flying in Winter's Battlefield, scry 1. I mean, it's simple to the point, but I quite like it. I mean, 4 mana 3/2 flyer, I like that. Those aren't bad stats, especially in a set where flyers are important, and scry is nice, real solid. Now the hard to read cards, which is, we have Depose and Deploy. Depose is 1 in Azorius for tap target creature, draw a card. And Deploy is 2 white blue for create 2 1/1 colorless stop-turn tokens of flying, and you gain 1 life for each creature you control. I mean, Depose for the most part will usually be, hey, I need to cycle this, I need to hit my 3rd land drop or something like that, and also like stem the bleeding a little bit, which is functionally like quite good. Like, it can cycle itself if it needs to with a little bit extra kick on it. And then I think most of the time we're playing Deploy as kind of like, that also has instant speed, which is useful, as kind of just like a good tempo card, and both of these are just quite nice, good tempo cards, and I quite like Depose and Deploy. That said, if I don't have access to, like if I'm only white or only blue, I wouldn't run it for just Depose. just because it's like, yeah, you can cycle it, but that's not an effect I want to be running just to cycle it. Now we have Warrant and Warden. Warrant is white, blue for an instant. Put target attacking creature on top of its owner's library. I actually quite like that effect. I mean, I'd run that even if I can't cast the other half. But then Warden is 3 white, blue for a sorcery that says create a 4/4 white and blue Sphinx creature token with flying and vigilance. I mean, that's also solid. I mean, essentially it's a sometimes it can be a weird totally lost, and sometimes it's a 4/4 flying vigilance, and I like both those halves quite a bit. So, yeah. And that is it for Azorius. I'm actually quite liking Azorius. Like, I wasn't too impressed by a lot of the Azorius cards. It seemed kind of stale when we were looking at just like the white-blue cards. But I really like this kind of tempo gameplay, and I think I'll quite enjoy it quite a bit in draft. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm still not probably going to play Azorius during pre-release. I'm definitely still going for Gruul, because I like playing green. Alright, now we're on to the Orzhov cards. We're starting out with Basilica Bellhaunt, which is like the new... This is like the intensely costed Orzhov card, which is white, black, for a 3/4 spirit that when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and you gain 3 life. For how hard this card is to cast, it's very disappointing. Like, yeah, like 3 life, it's a 4-mana 3/4, which is fine, but it's hard to cast, and discarding a card is fine. But I'm not really impressed by this. Like, I'll run it in an Orzhov deck and I'll be happy with it, but I'm not going out of my way for this card. It's just very low power level. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, sometimes you'll like nag your opponent's last card and that'll feel good, but there's a lot of creatures that also can kind of do that, and I feel with the amount of also just incidental discard we saw in the set, it's gonna become a common trend to just like make sure you have lands to be ready to discard away. And I just feel like it isn't going to be that impactful. Like 4-mana 3/4, gain 3 life, and nab a card. It's fine. I mean, it's a good card, but I just expect more from like these highly intensive casted cards. Next we have a bomb rare, which is Ethereal Absolution, which is 4 white and black for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And you pay 2 white and a black to exile target card from an opponent's library, or graveyard, sorry. If it was a creature card, you create a 1/1 spirit token with flying. This is one of those cards which, if you untap with it, you are winning that game. It's just like, if they're not killing you, then you're gonna win that game, because it's just like that is such a huge switch. It's like a swing in like just board presence. Like that ability, or essentially that will often like kill things and things like that, and then everything that's the thing that dies you get to pour in and make a 2/2 white and black spirit. And it's just one of those things where like this is one of those cards that will just be so good and just game ending. So there's not much to say. Like, it is just raw power level, and yeah. And it's an enchantment, it's hard for them to deal with, and just like, it provides that late game mana sink that you usually need by the time you're like landing 6 drops and things like that. And oh no, now I have all these 2/2 flyers that I'm making, and any other afterlife creatures I happen to have, and all my other stuff just happens to be bigger, and oh look, all your stuff is small. Yeah, no, it's just very good. Next we have Final Payment, which is white and black for an instant. As additional cost to cast this spell, pay 5 life or sacrifice a creature or an enchantment. Destroy target creature. I really like this. I think this is quite nice. Like, the flexibility to kind of like as a bone splinters type of thing, like to also pay 5 life. The sacrificing an enchantment isn't super relevant, but yeah, it's instant speed, so you can do it in response to like jump blocking, or you can sacrifice a thing in response to a removal spell, and all these other things. It makes me just really like this card, like quite a bit. And like in a pinch, like if there's a threat that you just need to kill and you don't have a creature, you can just pay that 5 life. And usually you're fine with that because otherwise it's like, oh, it's a big gruel creature that would hit me for 5 anyway. So yeah, final payment, very nice. I quite like it. Next we have a Grasping Thrall, which is 3 white black for a 3/3 flying. And in Winter's Battlefield, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. I mean, it's a nice life swing. It's a 5-mana 3/3, which is eh. I mean, it's fine. It's a fine 5-drop. 4-point life swing is nothing to blink at, and 5-mana 3/3 flyer is not the best, but not the worst. There's not much to say about this card. Imperious Oligarch, which is a white, black, for a 2/1 of Vigilance and Afterlife 1. Again, I quite like this. Like, you don't want to be running, like, you don't want to be splashing for this, but in the Orzhov deck, like, Pike with Vigilance that turns into a 1/1 spirit, like, this is just a better Doomed Traveler, and yeah, no, I think this is just a real solid 2-drop and one of the best Orzhov 2-drops you can find. So, yeah. Again, not too fancy, but just very effective and very efficient. We have Kaya, Orzhov Usurper, who looks awesome, and I love Kaya. It was 1 white and a black for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. Her +1 is exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. You gain 2 life for each if at least 1 creature card was exiled this way. -1, exile target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. And -5, she deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile, and you gain that much life. Kaya is unplayable in Limited. That's just the pure fact. It's like Graveyard Hate, you don't need it in the set. There's not any troublesome graveyard deck or graveyard guild in the set. Exiling CMC 1 or less permanents isn't useful, and that -5, yeah, you might do some damage, but it's not that useful. I'm sorry, Kaya, you're just really bad in Limited, to the point I would never play Kaya in Limited. If you're taking Kaya, it's because you're taking her because she's worth a bit of money, and that's about it. And also, she looks rad. I'm sorry, but though, Kaya, you're not that good in Limited. Although I do like her in Commander, because maybe she's flashy and stuff, and maybe people won't cut her when they're making cuts, because people need Graveyard Hate in Commander, and they don't like to run it. Next up we have Kaya's Wrath, which is white, black for sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you control that were destroyed this way. It's a bad Fumigate. Like, I mean, Wraths are good, and this will be a good card, but it's not as good as Fumigate. I mean, you can control, like, what creatures you play out, and, I mean, it gives you a little bit of a discount if you, like, kill some creatures otherwise, but, I mean, it's a fine Wrath, and it'll be good and Limited. Yeah, there's not much to say. Like, Wraths are good. Very good. And Instant Life, I don't mind. So, yeah. Knight of the Last Breath, which is 5 white, black for a 4/4 with Afterlife 3. So it is 7 mana for 7/7 worth of stats total across 4 creatures. And you pay 3, sacrifice another non-token creature to make a 1/1 Black Spirit token of lifelink, or not lifelink, flying. It is very expensive, and you can't afford to be running more than 1 7-drop in your deck. But he does do a fair amount, and like kind of like having an activation in response to like a bad block or a removal spell or something like that. Although most likely he'll just be pointed at himself for a removal spell. I think he's fine. Like, his price is definitely a point against him because he is very expensive to cast, but I think he'll be just fine. I mean, Afterlife 3 is real, but at the same time, yeah. I don't know what else to say. I'm not sure. Like, I could feel like it'll very much depend on the speed of the format. If it ends up being like a quite slow format and very grindy format, I think I'd go up on him, because just being able to like churn out flyers and things like that if you need to is really nice. And the fact that he himself creates these evasive threats is nice, but if Gruul becomes dominant, like, this guy will just not be way too slow to actually be relevant. Mortify. 1 white and a black for an instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. For the most part, it'll be dealing with creatures, but I mean, occasionally have an enchantment. But this is very, very good. I'd splash for this. Like I said, it's a murder. Not like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's a murder. And murders are usually very, very good. And sure, it's a murder that costs different colors and things like that, but murder, any murder set, murder's usually one of the best cards in that set. This is a murder, but Orzhov, and better if you're in the Orzhov colors, and I'd still splash for this if I'm in Azorius or Rakdos. Yeah, it's just very good. And I love the new art. Pitiless Pontiff, which is white and a black for a 2/2, and you may pay 1, sacrifice another creature to give her indestructible and death touch until end of turn. This is one of those cards where it's like it's a 2-drop that has relevance in the later game, because like she does like I talked about this in the green video where it's like your bears need to have relevance in the late game to be good as bears a lot of the time, instead of just being a 2/2, which is fine. But this one actually does, because it's like that death touch indestructible, it's like you're not going to be using this a lot of the time, you're not going to be activating the ability, but the threat of activation of Pitiless Pontiff is the main key part of it, where it's like they don't want to block this thing even if they have a good block, because you can just sacrifice your worst creature and this person kills whatever it's entangled with and survives because it gets death touch and indestructible. I mean, you do have to keep up mana for it, you have to sacrifice a creature, but I mean, Orzhov, a lot of the Afterlife stuff will have more than enough creatures, and this is just a really good 2-drop, so yeah. Next we have Seraph of the Scales, which is 1 and a black, 2 and a black for a 4/3 flying with amazing art, and but it has Afterlife 2, and you pay white to give it Vigilance and black to give it Death Touch. And it's like, it's a mythic, and it's not as exciting as a lot of mythics are, but it's just very powerful. I mean, 4 mana, 4/3 flyer, I like that. Okay, I can pay to give it Vigilance or Death Touch, which, I mean, usually, like, I don't mind paying a little bit extra mana for those keywords, because it's very situational when you need those keywords, and she blows up into more flyers. Yeah, no, she's just very, very good. Even if not very exciting, but very, very good. Now we have the Guild Mage, which is Syndicate Guild Mage, which is white, black for 2/2. You can pay white, 1 and a white to tap target creature of power 4 or greater. And you may pay 4 and a black to have it deal 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. I mean, so he's a bear that has situational removal for usually things that like Orzhov will care about, which is like big Gruul and Simic creatures. And also just kind of like, if not on like keeping their creature tapped down duty, he provides like not terrible late game inevitability, just like paying them for 2 every turn if you need to in a gummed up gourd state. So I quite like Syndicate Guild Mage. I wish the first ability was a little less conditional, but yeah, I quite like him a lot. But yeah, not much to say. Like, the second ability isn't great, and if not for like just the relevance of that first ability, and when worst comes to worst, a lot of these Guild Mages are just bears and have that early game utility. Next up we have Teysa Karlov, which is 2 white and a black for a 2/4, which has, if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Mainly what it's saying is it doubles your Afterlife triggers. And creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. She is just a very good creature. Like, very good. But the thing is, she's only really good in the Orzhov deck. Like, you don't really want to be splashing for her, because it's like, the Azorius doesn't care about tokens or things dying. Rakdos doesn't really have triggers off of things dying, or doesn't care about creature tokens. It's really just the Orzhov who want her in their deck, but in that deck, she is just an all-star, and it's just very, 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 very good. So, yeah, I quite like Tessa Kolarov a lot. And it's one of those where it's like, if you're able to pick her up, you want to pivot into Orzhov, because she makes that deck so insane. I mean, the hybrid card, which is Vizkopa Vampire, which is a 3-mana, 3/1, so, but it can go into white or black deck, but it's a 3/1 with lifelink. And I've talked about this before. I'm not huge on 3/1s, especially for 3 mana. But lifelink isn't bad. Like, usually it'll trade for a creature, and also you'll gain 3 life, and you know what? I don't mind that. Like, when it's just like 3/1s that, like, okay, they traded for something. Like where it's like the worst case scenario for a general 3/1 is like, oh, they traded with a 1/1 token. Okay, that felt really bad that I spent a card on that. But this one, like, the bottom line is, okay, traded for a token, but I gained 3 life, and I gotta kill a token, things like that, and if it trades for anything else, it's fine, and you know what, I just don't mind this. Like, it's not a good card, but it's passable it's good as it comes to 3/1s. We have Consecrate and Consume. Consecrate is a 1 in Orzhov for exile target card from a graveyard, draw a card. That essentially says 2 mana, cycle this card. You don't want to run it for that effect. If you don't have white or don't have black, don't run this card, because there's a lot of graveyard hate in the set for a set that does not care about the graveyard. And Consume is target player sacrifice, it's 4 mana, for target player sacrifice creature with the greatest power among the creatures they control. You gain life equal to its power. Consume is a very good card. Like, sacrifice effects are good, especially sacrifice effects that also, like, say which thing they sacrificed. And also just gaining that life is usually quite nice, because it's also gaining the thing with, like, the greatest power, and that's, like, I can imagine, like, hitting, like, a Gruul player and, like, gaining, like, 6 life off of that, and that feels so nice. So, I really like Consecrate and Consume, only for the Consume side. It has the extra ability of, like, it essentially has cycling too, which is not bad, and extra icing on the cake, but you don't want to be playing this if you can't cast both sides. That said, I would probably splash for this. Then we have Revival and Revenge. Revival is Orzhov. Orzhov, return to a creature card converted mana cost 3 or less from a graveyard to the battlefield. I don't mind that in any deck that's running white or black. Like, I mean, CMC 3 or less, you're usually running a lot of those in limited, and just getting one back isn't terrible, and I don't mind that. But then Revenge is 4 white, black, double your life total, and your target opponent loses half their life, rounded up. I mean, Revenge isn't always super relevant, but you know, sometimes you need it, and Revival is also just real solid. I mean, one side situational, one side is like just good, and I quite like this. I don't mind this at all. I think it's just real solid. Not much else to say. Also has Kaya on it, and Kaya's awesome. And that is it for Orzhov. Orzhov is another one of the ones where it's like, I was kind of disappointed with like a lot of the like monocolored like cards in Orzhov. But you know, like a lot of these things like pieces like are interesting, and you definitely see how they go. I really should have done like the gold card ones before I did the monocolor videos, but oh well. I'll remember next time we do a multicolored set in like 3 years when, I don't know, we go back to Tarkir, I guess, is probably the next one. We'll probably go to Tarkir before we go to Ravnica again. But yeah. I don't know what to say, but yeah, that's it for this episode. And next episode we're going to be talking about the Simic and the Gruul. The good guilds, because they have green in them. And green's the best color. In my opinion. And my opinion is right. But yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful night. And let me know if you disagree with how I evaluated these cards. Like, I mean, a lot of this is important. Just have discussion and get ideas going and things like that. And kind of like get better at the game collectively. And yeah. Oh, I hope you all have a wonderful night's sleep. And may your story smile upon you.